All right. Well, good morning. Thank you so much for joining our third webinar here at Climate Bridge Korea, New York. My name is Sujin Chung, founder of Climate Bridge Korea, New York, and CEO of Witness Creative Partners. It is so nice to have you all, and thank you for joining our third webinar with Jerry Ligrani, program lead at Incubatenergy as part of EPRI. What a pleasure and privilege. Thank you, Jerry. Jerry comes to EPRI with over 13 years of services at Xcel Energy, where he contributed significantly across diverse departments. He played an instrumental role in establishing and helping to design and build Xcel Energy's innovation lab, spearheaded the company's internal Shark Tank initiative, and most recently successfully developed and led the intellectual property program at Xcel. Incubatenergy Labs will start accepting applications in September, and Jerry will share all about the program with us today. Please, Jerry is happy to take any questions during his presentation. So please raise your hand or type it in the chat box if you need, and then we will organize and ask him the question as well. So without further ado, Jerry Ligrani.
Thanks, Sujin, and thank you all. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I'm excited to be here to talk about what I believe is one of the best opportunities out there for startups to showcase their clean tech technology. So I'm going to share my deck. Can we see it?
Yes.
Are we good? Okay. So before I begin, I want to talk a little bit about EPRI itself for those of you that might not have heard of us. So the Electric Power Research Institute, or EPRI, is a leading research and development organization that was founded in 1974. We do research and development for the power industry. We are trusted by utilities, policymakers, other research and development organizations around the world. We do business in over 45 countries. We have offices all over the world. And so I'm excited to be here to share with you Incubatenergy Lab. Before I move into that, are there any questions from anybody about EPRI itself? Okay. So Incubatenergy Labs. So Incubatenergy Labs is a program within EPRI. We call it what's called a supplemental program. So what that means is members actually pay to be part of Incubatenergy Labs. And our goal is to find startups for, our members, and we use a rigorous process to down select those to go to our utilities to run paid pilot demonstrations. It's a great opportunity for the startups to test their technologies in real world situations. I'll talk a little bit more about this process here in a minute, but we have a defined process that runs annually over what I call a 13-month calendar. And the great thing about it is it's a rapid demonstration cycle. You get to test your technology in front with our utilities. In fact, I see one of our alumni on here already. SenseWaves is an alumni from Incubatenergy. So John, good to see you again. So one of the great things about this for our members is the power of EPRI itself, right? We have some of the leading experts in the world in their fields around clean technology. Every year we have close to 200 startups apply. For our members, right, when we get to the demonstrations portion of the calendar, the results are shared across all of our members. Right, we have a streamlined process for contracting. One of the great things for our members is we de-risk the innovation process. For those of you that have dealt with utilities, you know how risk averse they can be. And one of the things that we can do is help de-risk that process. We can the startups contract with us, we contract with utilities, we handle all of the payments. Sorry about that. We handle all of the payments from the utilities to the startups. So it really helps make it a streamlined process. So just wanted to give you an idea of some of the utilities that we work with. Right, we have a pretty large global presence. We have mostly in North America. However, we do have companies in the Middle East, South America, and we have one utility in Asia, which is J-Power. So pretty diverse group of organizations across the world, which is great for the startups, right? Because you get a lot of exposure to these utilities. And some of our achievements, right? We've been running for 6 years. We've done over $10 million in demonstration funding. We have had over 80 startups have demonstrations completed with our members, and we've evaluated over 1,000 startups in that 6 years. What's great about the process is we do a rapid demonstration across 16 weeks, so it gives the startups a defined time frame to really test out their processes with our members. We do have a defined process, right, which I'll talk about here in a minute. And again, it really connects you with our members. We have access to incubators, accelerators, VCs. Addie from my team, who's on the call, manages the Incubatenergy network, which is a group of about 50 plus accelerators and incubators around the world, and we partner with them to scout for startups as well. Any questions in the chat? I haven't noticed anything, Susan.
No, not at this point.
Okay. So this is our process and our timeline. So beginning in September, the application window opens. That's the point where we accept applications, and that goes through November. Beginning in the discover phase, we register our SMEs, and SMEs come from EPRI and they come from our member utilities. So you've got some of the leading experts in the world evaluating your technology, plus we have our utilities evaluating that as well. We match those SMEs with the startups. We go through a rigorous scoring process in January. In February, our members get together and we do a down select process. So I'm going to use 2023 or 2024 as an example. So in 2024, we had 176 startups apply. That down select process took it down to our semifinalists, which were 50 startups. Those 50 startups come in front of our members, and we do a process where we get together for a half a day with our 20 utilities. We look at every one of those startups. We look at how they were evaluated, and the utilities decide which of those startups go to the next phase, which is pitch day. Once we get through that, pitch day traditionally happens in March. We have a live event. This year, I'm happy to announce for 2025, Pitch Days is going to be at Distributech in Dallas, Texas at the end of March, which is great exposure for the startups, right? You're coming, in addition to pitching to our utilities, you're going to get a pitch on the Distributech floor in front of hundreds of thousands of people. So we go through pitch days, we get together with our members, and we decide which of the startups are going to get paid demonstrations. And there's not just one winner. For example, in 2023, we had 25 startups pitch. 17 of those startups got demonstrations. For 2024, we had 20 startups pitch, and as of today, we have 12 of those startups that are going to be getting demonstrations. So we have a pretty good track record. Anywhere from 60 to 75% of the startups that make it to pitch day usually get a demonstration project. And we also have 2 of the 2024 startups, because of the length of the projects, will be coming to 2025. Project execution during the activate phase happens usually in the summer. We like to go over 16 weeks. However, we are flexible. So if a startup and a utility agree that they want to go longer or shorter, we can accommodate that. Once we get through that, we get back together in October, and we have what's called demo days. Demo days is an event we have the last week in October. We all get back together in person. The startups that did their demonstrations, then they come back together. They report their results to the other members of the cohort. Startups generate final reports. Those get published to the EPRI website, and then we begin the cycle all over again. So it's a pretty great process. I think it's great for the startups because it gets you in front of some of the best experts in the world. And for the utilities, it's a very defined process. So just a couple success stories from the past few years. So Pano AI is a company that handles wildfire mitigation if anybody has seen there's some commercials from T-Mobile that have come out over the last few years. Pano AI is in those commercials, right? And they use the T-Mobile network to help with wildfire mitigation. That's one of our success stories. Run With It Synthetics is another one that we worked with. That was before I got here. I don't know a lot about them other than, it's a great AI system. To me, one of the biggest success stories is Solid State Power. This was a company that so I'm going to back up a minute here. We typically look for startups in the TRL 6 to 8 range. However, Solid State Power was considered about a TRL 4 to 5, but their technology was so compelling that 7 utilities partnered to co-fund this, and they have a new type of transformer that they're working on. And even though it wasn't in our normal technology readiness level, we agreed to do it because so many utilities were interested, right? And 7 utilities funded this one. So these are just a few examples. Some examples from our 2024 cohort are a company called Buzz Solutions, who has an AI model for security monitoring. Another great example is Nuclearn, right? They have an AI-powered tool to handle documentation in the nuclear industry. So we've got some amazing examples of some startups that we are working with. So if you want to learn more, you can reach out to me. My email is on this, and Sujin will be sending this out as a deck. I do have to say that the website you see at the bottom of the screen we are reconstructing our website. So if you go to that link, you're not going to get to our website. You're going to go to the EPRI website. But if there's any startups on the call that are interested in applying for our 2025 cohort, send me an email with your company name, your contact information, and so on, and I will make sure you're in the database so that we can make sure you get notified in September when the application window opens. With that, I am happy to take any questions that anybody has.
Thank you so much, Jerry. If there are any questions, feel free to raise your hand or type in the chat box. But if I may start, is there any hurdles for international companies to join the program? Or on the other side, do we have any success stories for international startups to join the program?
Yeah, so hurdles, the biggest hurdle we're finding is just time zones, right? So here's a great example. We have a company this year that's in Australia that's working with the California utility, and just coordinating those time zones has been a challenge. But we've been able to overcome that, right? We can figure that out. I'm trying to think of some. That's a company that is based in Europe, has worked with some of our utilities. We have another company this year in Italy. So I think the short answer to that is no. We can accommodate startups from around the world. As a matter of fact, in 2024, we had of our 176 startups, we had applications from 6 continents. So which was pretty cool. I don't think we ever had that before.
Okay, amazing. Well, we have a question from Malcolm in the chat. Is there any typical project length?
Typically around 16 weeks is our kind of our sweet spot. However, we can do longer or shorter. We have a project this year that's going to be run in 2 phases because they want to get data from summer and winter. So they're going to run 3 months over summer. They'll come to demo days in October. Then they want to get some more data over the same technology in the winter. So they'll come back in 2025, and they'll actually present in both timeframes. We have another one here that's an 8-week project. So we are very flexible when it comes to that. Thanks, Malcolm.
Okay. There's a question from Dom. Does IAL or utility partner provide funding to companies related to demo? Are these investments grants or loans?
So that's a great question, Tom. So actually, the utilities pay a fee to be part of Incubatenergy. If they decide to sponsor or host a demonstration or a pilot project, they actually have to put in incremental funding. So that money actually goes, the startup and the utility can negotiate what that fee is. So yeah, the startup will pay us, and then that money flows directly to the utility pays us. That money flows through us directly to startup. And it's not an investment or a grant or a loan. And we don't, one of the great things about us is we don't take any equity like a VC firm might. We're here just to showcase clean technologies, get them out into the world, and share them with other utilities.
Okay, that's amazing. Well, thank you. Also, there's a question from Sariong. Yeah, can you elaborate a little more on the TRL, technology readiness levels? What is a typical threshold for startup applicants?
Yeah, TRL is typically 6 through 8 or 6 through 9, right? Our goal is to see if we can help the path to commercialization. Like I said before with solid state, right? We have looked at TRL 4 through 4 and 5. TRLs, 1, 2, 3 might be too early stage for us. However, if it was a compelling technology and our members were interested in it, we could definitely look at that as well.
Okay. Does it answer the question? Any additional questions?
Yeah. Did I answer your question?
Okay. There's another question from Pioneer in Korea, collaborating with. He says collaborating with big companies seems like an excellent opportunity for us. We're also interested in networking with other startups like us. Are there such opportunities available for startups to connect and collaborate with each other?
Yeah, so I would say as part of our process, right, if you make it to pitch days, right, you're going to be collaborating with the other 20 startups that make it to pitch days. During the demonstration process, we have weekly, from now through demo days, we have weekly calls with our startups, and we can make those introductions as well, right? If you're interested, Addie from my team can also help navigate through the Incubatenergy network as well. But yeah, we are more than happy to help you create those opportunities with other startups.
Okay, fantastic. We have another question from Anastasia. Are there certain challenges that utility partners are looking to resolve this year?
So interesting, right? When we build challenge site, we meet with our members to come up with the technology categories. We are in that process right now of I can stop sharing too. We're in that process right now of identifying categories for 2025. So we go through a pretty rigorous process. We work with our EPRI sectors. So EPRI is divided into sectors, and I have what's called sector leads, which are our liaisons into our sectors. They look at what research is being done within EPRI, what other utilities might be looking at. We share that information with our members, and then we come up with a list of technology. So it changes every year. That's the short answer to your question. So for 2024, it was, like robotics, it was decarbonization, it was predictive and prescriptive analytics. We're in that process right now for 2025. And we'll be announcing that as part of the application process here that opens up in September.
Okay. Fabulous. Okay, we have a question from Malcolm. Can we access the deck you shared today, especially the timeline?
Absolutely. We're going to send this deck out afterwards, and you can. And then again, Malcolm, if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to set up 30 minutes with anyone on the call if they're interested. And if there's anyone in Korea, like I work with J-Power, who's in Tokyo, I try and make it convenient for them. So I'm more, if with that 15-hour time difference with me based in Colorado, I can set up a time for 6 p.m. local time, which would be, I think, 9 o'clock, right? Is my time right? Yeah.
Yeah, he's up now. He's 6:20 a.m. for him. I forgot to thank him for.
Yeah, and I appreciate everybody. Right, this was early for a lot of folks.
Thank you so much. Okay.
So, what other questions do you have?
I actually have a question too. Is there, a lot of companies, corporates nowadays have CVCs, corporate venture capitals, and also utility companies have them too. I was wondering if there is any cases that has been led to the investments from the CVCs in the startups.
It's interesting, right? Some of our members have a really close relationship with EIP, Energy Impact Partners. I look at it this way, right? The VC, for those CVCs can be pipelines to us, and we can be pipelines to them. A lot of times we'll get, like EIP has actually sent several of their companies to apply, right? And I think a couple of the EIP companies made it to the semifinalists, but I don't think they made it to pitch day. But yeah, that happens quite frequently.
That's good. I was also wondering who gets to evaluate the startups and the technology? Who's involved?
So the evaluation is handled in a couple different phases. We have our SME evaluations, which are EPRI experts, and what we do is we look for EPRI experts that are aligned with the technology of the startup. So we find experts within EPRI that understand that technology. We also look for our member utilities also have SMEs that also assign it. So we may have an example might be Constellation, right, who has a nuclear facility. There may be a nuclear startup. So Constellation would recommend somebody that understands nuclear power to evaluate that startup. So the SMEs actually have experience or expertise in that technology. Those are the ones that are evaluating the startups. The second phase is once we get to the semifinalist phase, the utilities actually do a deeper dive into the startups, and that's where we get in. The utilities actually make that decision to go down from the semifinalists to the 20 that move on to pitch day.
Fabulous.
Checking the chat. I don't see anything else, but what other questions do you all have?
So Sarang has a question that how many teams are usually presented at the events for the pitch day?
So pitch day this year, because it's the Distributech, we're limited to 20. We only have 20 slots available. However, I will tell you this: we have a process in place that if a utility brings a startup to us and they want to bypass that process and run a paid demonstration, we can do that. As a matter of fact, we had a couple of startups that didn't pitch, but their technology was so compelling, we had a couple of our utilities say, hey, we want to run demonstrations with them. So there is a path forward even if you don't make it to pitch day. Demo day is just the utilities that have run paid demonstration projects. So for 2024, it's going to be the 12 startups that actually got paid demonstrations will come to demo days at the end of October, and discuss the results of what they've worked on over the summer. Did that answer your question?
Oh, great.
Sorry, here. Thanks for answering all my questions, Ms.
Absolutely.
And really interested in the work that you do, and I think it's fantastic that you have something that can enable startups to actually access the market and commercialize their products. For the applicants, are there any certain criteria you require for them to be classified as startups? Because I think because you guys are considering startups that are at technology level that are very mature, I guess some SMEs themselves might want the opportunity to actually access your program. So what would be the criteria for you to classify startups that would be eligible for to be participating as applicants?
Yeah, great question. We use the term startup rather loosely. I'll give you a good example. We had a company come to pitch days in March of this year called Gridspertise. They are backed by Enel, which is a big European utility, right? They probably wouldn't be considered a startup because of who's funding them, but because they had a compelling use case that they wanted to get into the North American market, right? They were strictly in Europe. They actually made it to pitch day. Unfortunately, they didn't get a demonstration, but they did come pitch. So we use startups rather loosely. I mean, if you have I've even said this before, if a big company has a compelling use case or wants to get into a new market or wants to try and commercialize something, I'm more than happy to let them apply.
Okay, that's great to know. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. What else? But maybe to piggyback off that question, I was thinking about this because I've had this asked this question before about what makes a compelling application. And what I tell startups is look at our utilities, look at who our members are, look at publicly available information. That's probably I've actually got this idea from one of our utilities, right? Utilities are very transparent. Their rate cases, their regulatory filings are all public information. As you fill out your application, think about how your use case can help them solve some of their problems. So that's what I've always told startups, right? When you build an application is to do some research on our members and come up with a use case and then use case that's going to solve that problem for them.
That's fabulous. Okay.
And in your previous batches, has there been a lot of international participation as well? Or has the participation mostly come from U.S. companies?
When we first started in 2019, I think it was primarily North American companies, but we've expanded. I think I said at 176 startups, probably half of them were North America, but the other half were from Europe, Asia, Africa, Australia. I think the only continent we didn't have anybody apply from was Antarctica, but we even had some African companies apply as well. Not very many, but yeah, half were North America, the rest were spread out across the world.
Mm-hmm. We have another question from Bay from Pioneer. Does EPRI have specific goals for selecting projects for determining their success?
EPRI, you mean for are we talking about startups that apply to the IEL program, or are we talking about EPRI in general? Because EPRI is different than what I do. I would say for IEL, our success criteria, my goal is if 20 startups pitch, I want all 20 of them to get a demonstration, right? And if we can do that, that's great, because that means that we have gotten compelling startups, we're solving utility problems. EPRI is a little bit different, right? I don't know the criteria for bringing in a project into EPRI proper, right? You have to, utilities can pay to do research for EPRI, and actually startups can too. Right? If you have, you wanted to hire EPRI to help you test out, hire is maybe not the wrong word. If you want to leverage EPRI research to test out a technology, that's a different path than coming through IEL. I'm not sure that answers your question or not.
Bay, are you good with the answer? If not, please feel free.
Did that answer it, Bay?
Yes, it was about IEL. Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Okay. Any other questions you may have? Oh, Malcolm, you're on mute.
I just want to say thank you for taking the time. I understand the program better now.
Thank you, Malcolm. Thank you. Okay, I mean, you have access to me anytime, and definitely you have access to Jerry as well. So feel free to let us know. Is there anything else, Jerry?
Yeah, no, just thank you. I love promoting this program. One of the reasons I came to EPRI to do this was because it was something I was doing at Xcel Energy, and I was able to do the same thing at scale for the entire industry. So I love what I do. I love working with startups. We have a fantastic team here. If you you need anything, just reach out. Addie put my email address in the chat. Like I said, if you're a startup and you want to set up 30 minutes to talk through the more detail, let me know. If there's any utilities on the line and you want to learn more about joining IEL, let me know. And I can go into more detail, talk about the pricing, talk about how everything works if you're a member, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm available to stay on for questions, or I'll leave it up to you.
Great. Thank you so much. It's just so informative. It was wonderful to listen to Jerry and have everybody here. And thank you again. And yeah, Jerry's email is in the chat, so you can always email him or email me whenever you need to. Yeah, so next, just want to talk about next webinar. Will be on the 21st with TD Lowe, who's actually a dear friend, personal friend of mine, and who is a partner at 42Fly Venture and founder at Innovation Nation. And she will tell us all about how to get expert help in financing your climate tech startup. That'll be very, very interesting. And also, I'm in Korea next soon, and I'll be at the DCamp office in and out, but in Gangnam. And if you want to say hi in person, please email me as well. So again, thank you again, and thank you, Jerry, for this time and information. And we look forward to seeing you again in August. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Okay, thank you.